Hello, hello. How y'all doing out there? How y'all doing out there? All right, so we are waiting for Mother to get back connected in, but we just wanted to welcome you to Wind Down with Real Women with Mother and myself as Dot. We're just happy that we're able to share and some of our wisdom and some of our wisdom and some of the things that we talk about via whether it's marriage, whether it's careers, whether it's just anything that has to do with a black woman or a woman in general, because we represent both. So okay, all right.
Okay. Hey sis, can you hear me? Can you hear me? You can hear me? I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you. I don't know if other people can hear you. Okay. So my sis is gonna leave and come back in. Apologies, we've been having like some technical difficulties this morning. It's so weird. It always works fine, and then we get on live, and it decides, that it wants to go haywire. Um, okay. Apologies. I'm back, and my sis Esther will be back here in just a second. So Esther probably started telling you guys what we're going to talk about today. We figured since Valentine's Day is coming up that maybe we should do like kind of a love targeted edition. And so today we're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about marriage. We're going to talk about sex, and really get to the meat and potatoes of everything. So everybody, of course, get down there in the comments. Please be sure to like and subscribe. The Black Man Unfiltered for the Black Man Unfiltered Network, if you haven't already. But we're ready to get into this discussion. I think we all, it's been difficult going through the pandemic for the last 2 years, and so sometimes when you have so much else going on in life, it's hard, it's difficult to focus on like what matters most. And especially in a marriage and a relationship, if you have kids, between work, between, each individual's families, it's hard and you kind of forget, about that sexual and that intimacy part and how important that is in your relationship. Hey sis, can you hear me good?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It's like a little distorted again. I don't know why,
Oh
but
my
I can
gosh.
hear you. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
assuming the audience can probably hear you fine.
All right, mic check. Can you guys hear me out in the audience? Can you all hear me clearly?
Okay.
Just
Oh,
let me
I can't
know.
even hear the last part. Okay. What'd you say, sis?
I was like, can you hear me out in the audience? Can you all hear me? Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Bree. Thank you very much. So continue on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay. Oh, I can't even. I just dropped back. I just dropped back on, sis. Here, go ahead and start the discussion. I'm gonna change devices, and I'll be right back.
Okay, great. All right. Perfect. 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 Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, I'm sure Mother has kind of explained a little bit about what we're in the season of love. We're in the season of Valentine's Day where there's a lot of expectation for you to, show your significant other. We just kind of want to bring to the forefront about how we can make Valentine's Day year round. We want to make Valentine's Day feel like, every day, as often as possible. We want our significant others to feel special, and not just on a holiday. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. So let's get into how marriage affects. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. All right. So before we even actually get started, let's go ahead and bring up Genesis. Hello, hello. You on mute, sis? You want to unmute yourself? I can't. There you go. You on mute, sis?
Hey
Yeah.
y'all.
Hello, how are you doing, beautiful?
I'm good. How are
You
you?
want to unmute yourself? I can't. I'm doing really good.
I'm getting a delay.
You on mute, sis?
Hey
Yeah.
y'all.
Hello, how are you doing, beautiful?
I'm good. How are
You
you?
want to unmute yourself? I'm doing
I hear
really
that
good.
too.
I'm getting a delay.
You on mute, sis?
Hey
Yeah.
y'all.
Hello, how are you doing, beautiful?
Oh, got it. That was me. I'm
Oh.
sorry. I forgot my YouTube was on. See? Oh goodness. All right, I got it now.
Okay. Cool. So just give us a little background. I'm going to give a little background about myself. I am married. I have one child, and I've been married for it'll be 8 years this year. So we're trucking along, and we're just talking about love, life, relationships, sex, all of those good things. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a divorcee. Just recently, well, last year, I got engaged and he passed away, unfortunately, shortly after.
Oh,
So, rough year.
congratulations. I know that's a high and a low moment. How do you feel
Very
like you're?
high and very low. But I'm still here. I'm still trudging along and I'm making it do what it do.
So, how do you feel like, because you have a totally different perspective. I've never been divorced or anything. This is my first marriage. What do you feel like was some of the things that you could have improved in, or you've grown from, you learned from during that phase of your marriages and your relationships?
Well, let me clarify. I have been married and divorced twice.
Okay.
The first marriage, I got married really young at 17.
Okay.
And I stayed married for 16 years. And we really shouldn't have gotten married. We were children. I thought that, you're young, dumb, and in love, and thought that we could grow together. And we didn't. I was maturing and, entering adult life, and he wasn't. And I stuck it out for as long as I could and endured probably everything there was to endure within a marriage, until I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I got a divorce. And shortly after, I entered another marriage for all the wrong reasons. I was new to what I call the Black church, and my discernment was off. And I married this person thinking, I won't worry about, being superficial. We're going to go with the bones. He came from a 2-parent household. Parents were ministers, had been raised in church all his life. And wrong, and more wrong.
Okay.
And I quickly made my exodus. And then I got in another relationship that was really my first adult relationship. And after 5 years, we got engaged and he passed away. So I'm here with all the scars and all the stories
Mm-hmm.
and all the hard lessons that I had to learn.
Love after loss. Is that the next segment for you?
I'm not really sure what the future looks like. I'm giving myself as much time as I need to grieve. And, a sister has been down that road too many times. So I'm like,
Right.
I don't have room for error anymore. So I have to take it super, super slow. So I'm just enjoying life right now.
Okay.
There's no pressure. I've, had been the wife and had the marriage and the whole wedding ceremony and all that. I'm like, I don't need that. So I'm cool.
Do you have any questions for us or anything that you want to ask us?
What does marriage look like for you? You're in it, you've been in it, you said for 8 years, like yourself after 8 years versus yourself when you were at the beginning entering the marriage.
Oh goodness. Hello.
Hey.
That's a mouthful, so I'm gonna take my time, okay? So when I got married, I was in my earlier 20s, and that's honestly the decade that you're supposed to be exploring. You're supposed to be, well, that's what they say you should be doing. You should be learning yourself, exploring, and all of those different kind of things, and traveling if that's your interest, working on your career. And honestly, I was just so unhealed before I got in my marriage. I was very, very unhealed at the time. I was working on it. I was working towards it. I've said in the last show, I'm a cancer survivor. So I had that situation very, very young in my 20s and had a lot of obstacles. But I was actually engaged before I met my husband. Oh Lord, we're gonna talk about it. Let's just talk about it. Let's go there, okay? So I was engaged to a guy who was very unhealthy, very toxic, and he was borderline abusive. I never got hit, but I did get tackled. Okay, I got tackled from behind, and after that, I was just trying to run away. And God was telling me, like, you need to go back home. And I was fighting every fiber to not go home because home was where I was first hurt. And so it was kind of hard for me to like heal in the same place that hurt me initially. And so as I was going through those different transformations, because, your brain is not even, formed, or it's not even matured until after you're 25. So I was 22, 23. So I wasn't making the best decision. Everything was impulsive. Nothing was with intention. Nothing had like purpose. I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't know if I was coming or going. Okay. I was just working, trying to go to school and all of those things. So I landed in this funky relationship with this guy. It was very quick, and I'm glad it was quick. And that ended. I went back home and I was like, you know what? The next person that I'm with, I have to be a little bit more healed than this. So I'm a relationship. At the time, I was a relationship like whore. Okay. Like I would jump in relationships and I would not take any breaks. I would I had somebody. I've never been single. I've never been, in situations where I've never been alone. So I didn't know how to be alone. That was something I didn't realize too. I didn't know how to be, by myself or anything like that. That is my daughter. She is too in the background trying to knock and come in. So if you hear that, that's her. So I just did a lot of healing for a year before I met my husband, a whole year. And I was still dating here and there, but nothing was, very serious. Hold on just a second.
She got the baby in the back.
Yeah, I got baby in the bag. We're gonna keep it real.
Kaylin.
Hey, Kaylin. Hey, Dante. Thank you for joining us today. And so, I just took my time. I went to like not marriage retreats. I went to church retreats. I was in my Bible. I was like studying. I was like just trying to renew my mind because it had experienced a lot of trauma. I started, going to counseling when I was younger, but you don't really, sometimes you don't see the effects of counseling until a little bit later. And like, you don't, that healing doesn't immediately happen. You're kind of processing. And
Mhm.
so I took that time off. I didn't date anybody. I entertained a couple of things here and there. And then I was trying to like start a business or something. I was like, I'm gonna be about my business, and I'll try to do some business, some MLM or something like that. And I invited my now husband to this event. Was not looking at him in that way at all. Like he was not on my radar like that. I'm like, I'm trying to get a business partner. I'm not, I'm not trying to, whatever. And so he ended up asking me on a date, and like the rest is kind of history. But I had a dream before. I had a dream because my dreams were very, very strong and spiritual because I'm in that space of healing. And God is like working on all these things in me. And so I had a dream. He had on this, I'll never forget, like white button up, dark jeans. So I was like, I want my guy to like dress nice. Like, I don't want no hood guy with the pants sagging. Like, I want him to have a little self esteem about his appearance a little bit more. Like, I just started envisioning kind of what I wanted.
Mhm.
And I saw this whole figure. He had like broad shoulders, muscular, you chocolate. Hmm. And so like all of these things, pause for the chocolate. And like all of these things, and he had like brown shoes, and brown. I remember all of those things. So when my then man popped up on the scene, he had that same outfit on.
Wow.
Wow.
Right. He had the same outfit on, and I'm like, I went back to my dream. I was like, white shirt, okay, God,
Right, check.
all right, yeah, like I'm like brown belt, brown, like everything in that dream. Like this was my husband in that dream, but I couldn't see his face, and
Wow.
so I was like, okay. And I tried to get rid of that man a couple times, but like, like you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And so, like, I met him and I was young and I didn't know myself at the time. And we had to have that discussion. When I hit 30, it was a totally different woman at that point in time.
Mhm.
I was not the same person that I was in my 20s as I was in my 30s. And I honored that. And so that was the first thing of me honoring the evolution of myself and bringing it back to my husband because he's been so consistent. He hasn't changed up or anything, but I have. And so I respect his process as much as I respect my own. And so that was kind of, like me coming as my own as a woman and like owning myself, not like wanting to do these things for me and not for, I was raised to like cater to a man. And now I'm like, I'm not doing that as much. I'm like, we're coming together as partners. Like we're coming together because we want to be. We are choosing each other every day. And so I think what marriage is evolution. Like you're not going to be the same person you was even. I'm not even the same person I was a year ago.
Right.
So with that being stated, like honoring myself as I grow into my womanhood, embracing the changes that happen, and knowing that everything is not like a failure. You're not a failure. You didn't mess up. This is just your journey. Could you make better decisions?
Mhm.
Absolutely. We all can make better decisions, but overall, we want to make sure that that we're just honoring the changes and making the adjustments. Um, so that's a piece of my story with my husband and how I have changed and me honoring those changes within myself. So I'm at a good place right now, just internally. It was a lot of hell and within myself because I was going through and I was fighting because you want to go back to your roots sometime. You want to go back to those some bad behaviors or some you want to go back and then you like but this doesn't fit the narrative of today. Like my feet too big for these shoes. So I gotta find some new shoes so I can kind of walk in to where God wants to see me or where I want to see myself, depending on your faith. So
Okay.
yeah, that was a lot.
Right?
You know what? Most of our stories past a certain age are like that. Our younger selves, we think we know everything when we're younger, and we realize when we get 30 and 40 and beyond that we really didn't know anything. And like you said,
Yes.
you evolved, and now you're this totally different person than you were then, and you can appreciate the growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think my husband benefits off of that for sure.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
scars build character.
Yes, they do. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yes.
I have a huge scar on my stomach, and like when I met my husband, I had like got out of surgery, or it was like around surgery, and I had this beautiful stomach. Okay, let me tell you, it had no marks, no bruises, no nothing, like nothing. And I'm a larger girl, and I had the flat stomach, and and I had I didn't know what I had when I had it until I didn't have it no more. And so I have like this elongated scar. And I remember one time he like kissed my scar, and I like melted because I was like, oh, you just love me like that. You just love me like that. Like that doesn't bother me. I think we're in our head half the time when it comes to our relationships and how our body looks and things like that. But yeah.
Why is that though? Why is that? Like I hear a lot of women say that, we're self-conscious about our bodies, and then the guys seem to not care. They like, come here, let me love on all of that.
Yeah, they don't really care about like weight,
Oh.
like any of that stuff. I think it's like a personal, it's like a personal thing. Because my husband actually prefers when I'm like heavier than when I'm slimmer. And I think it's probably all the cakes and all that go along with being heavier. So I think that's why, he prefers it. But it's always me that's like, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to do those things. And I think now, and I'm so thankful for that. I think now I'm finally at a place in life. I'm between COVID and between having a baby, I'm like 55, 60 pounds over my normal weight. And for once, I'm not like stressing about it. It's stressing about losing the weight. And I'm good with it. It's like if I lose weight, I lose weight. And if I don't, that's okay too. I just want to get to a healthier place. Not so much, it's not about like what the scale says. I just want to be healthy, but I'm not really concerned about the size or anything like that because my husband, like I said, I'm gauging it on as long as my husband's still chasing me around the house trying to get this thing, then we good.
Right.
Like,
I think for me, I got really, really healthy before I had my baby. Now I've been a thickums all my life. Okay. I've been on the heavier side of the spectrum since I was a child. And I didn't know some of that was rooted in I think one of the biggest issues is that sometimes I won't say our mothers, but society doesn't necessarily teach girls to love their bodies.
Sure.
There's no self-appreciation. When you start to have I know with my daughter, I'm gonna have like a coming of age party for her. She's only 2, but oh my gosh, I'm thinking like that because I want her to like respect and love her body early on. Because people will try to like feed you stuff, and you got people looking at you, and you just have that societal pressure that naturally comes with being a woman and then being a Black woman, because people love to emulate your body. So it's not like it's bad. We just have to learn how to appreciate all the things that come with our body and like take back ownership. And I think through like sexual abuse, which is something I've been a victim of, or victor over now.
Same. Victor.
There's a lot of shame.
Right. Wow. And that's crazy.
Yeah. all three of like that shame. Like I used to wear jackets like year round when I was in the seventh. I remember like in middle school, like I had a voluptuous body. Like I'm built stacked. As a kid,
Same.
you don't know what to do with all that, but you don't know what to do with that. Like you just cover. I used to wear a jacket. I'm in Texas. It's hot. I used to wear a jacket like over my body, trying to cover. I was trying to protect myself, not knowing that I wasn't in harm's way anymore. And so,
Yeah.
like, you're still subconsciously covering your body, not knowing how to. So I cheer like the kids. They wear their little mid. Like, get all that out your system. Wear all of it, okay?
Yeah.
Like, own your sexuality, and it doesn't mean
Mhm.
just sex. It means,
Mhm.
connecting to your womanness, your womanhood, all of that. So definitely, I think that's some of the shame. If that's a part of our past,
Mm-hmm.
we have to kind of heal from that to embrace our body and not being used like I don't know. I liked to be looked at. I like to be admired at the time. Um, but in a safe way. Like you
Yeah.
own it.
Mhm.
You walk in the room and
And I
you
had to
just
get
show up.
comfortable with that, like with my husband,
Yeah.
because my journey. So me and my husband have been married. Last year we made 10 years, and
Hmm.
so when I met my husband, I was like really young, like barely 20, like fresh. And I've kind of told my story before, but like fresh out of college, so I was still a party girl, like going out 4 or 5 times a week. I was in the streets. I was not ready to like be settling down. I was dating like a couple guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, my priorities were so different. Like it was about money and what you could do for me. And I was just at that phase in my life. And I think it made me think about it because, like Esther was saying, like Genesis was saying, sometimes when you've been, abused before as a kid, it almost made me like kind of lead with that. And that
Just the
was,
hypersexual. Yeah,
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Like you, and of course, I know as like mentioned, I, developed early. Always had this the family, but always had like since I was, 11, 12 years
Mm-hmm.
old. And so that's what I was always, like that was the first thing that like men noticed. And like you said, it kind of can corrupt you a little bit, when you're an 11, 12-year-old girl and you're not understanding, like, why are these grown men, like, noticing me sexually
Yep.
like this? And why is, that the first thing, why am I getting all this attention, from men? And that's the first thing. And that's what, they're attracted to. So at a point, I started to like, I like that attention. And so that's what, as I got older, like that's what I would lead with. Like, okay, yeah, I got this going on, this is what y'all into. Like, what can you do for me? Like, you like this, like what is it that, and whoever can do the most, like that's who. So there was no like relationships of like substance or anything like that. It was just strictly on, what is it? Whoever can do the most, like that's who I'm gonna talk to. What do you
Mm-hmm.
have going on? So did that a little bit, but with that, what nobody tells you with that, for any of the young ladies watching, with that money and all that good stuff, you pay for it. You really do pay for it. Along with that comes a lot of disrespect, comes a lot of mistreatment, comes a lot of people of men feeling like they can do whatever, and because they are, providing all this for you, you shouldn't say anything. Along with that, not all men, that are catering or whatever, but again, that's all I was
Control.
looking for. So I
Yeah.
wasn't looking for any other characteristics, like how do you treat your mama? How are you with women? I wasn't looking at any of those things. So, unfortunately I got into some situation where, that's what they were expecting. They wanted a yes woman, not to say anything about anything and,
Mm-hmm.
to be disrespected, to be all those things. So I was like coming off of that. And I'm like, maybe I just need to, organically find relationships. Maybe that's what so I wasn't even looking. I was trying to take some time and like heal. Um, and at the right around that same time, so my husband is actually my cousin's husband's brother. So, and I promise I'm not backwoods.
Mm-hmm. I did the
It
same
happened that way.
thing that I did. I'm like,
So
oh
my
my
first
God.
cousin, who was raised as my sister because her mom died young, she got
Okay.
married maybe like about 3 years before my husband and I did. And so it's her husband's brother.
Okay.
So it's like
Oh, okay.
two cousins married two brothers.
Brothers.
Yeah. So, my husband, he, at the time when I initially met him, I think he was like married and kind of separated, like getting ready to be going through a divorce. But of course, I wasn't even thinking towards that way because, again, I was just looking at, where the ball is at, where the buddy at. And he was a regular dude. So I wasn't even like interested at all. And I think he had mentioned something to my cousin, about being interested in me. And I brushed it off. Like I said, I wasn't. I'm like, oh, he a regular dude. He finna be going through a divorce. Like, he got some kids. Like, nah, he can't afford me. So, some time goes by. And so I come to like a family gathering with her. Because remember, I come very close. I come to a family gathering with her. And, he's there and he didn't like push up like hard or anything. He's, just interacting with the family and stuff. And it was something about, and this is so crazy because at the time, I wasn't even interested in kids, nothing like that. It was something about the way that he was with his kids and the way he was with his boys, and to see like this single man, like taking care of his kids in that way. It was something about that and how he had them that was like really attractive to me. And it was weird to me because, like I said, I had like no interest in kids or nothing like that, but it was something about that. So the next time, that they had like a family gathering and I, went with her and he asked me for my phone number, I said, okay, I'm gonna give him my phone number. And honestly, I'll be honest, and I am my husband's too. I was like, okay, well, I ain't got nothing going on. I'm gonna get some free meals. I'll go on a couple free dates. Still kind of on that mindset. But so long story short, we ended up going, on a couple dates, and I was able to see him for like who he was. And I always say, I feel like he's my soulmate because clearly he was able to see me. Even though I was so shallow and I was just a mess, like unhealed, he still, like saw past all that because I did like some shady things. Like when we started dating, like I was still like coming off of talking to other dudes. And so, I would still be like entertaining them and just all type of stuff. I was shady. And he was persistent and he didn't give up on me. Like, he kept pursuing me. And even though I was doing all those things, he never, made a big deal. But then probably like about a month or so in, he did kind of put his foot down. That was actually attractive to me. And he came to me and he was kind of like, I know, I haven't said anything. I know, what you're doing. I know, that you still, talk to your exes and that sort of thing. He's like, but, I really like you. I'm really having strong feelings for you. So if this is something, that you want to pursue, then like, you're going to have to let that go. If you want to be with me, and if not, and he wasn't mean about it. He was like, and if not, and that's okay. I know you're still young, then, that's fine. But I'm, not at a place where he basically let me know that's not what he was looking for. And so I said, okay. And again, that was attractive to me too, because I didn't grow up, with my dad around like that. So a man had never been like firm, but at the same time loving with me. So that was like so attractive to me. So from there, long story short, we started dating. And again, so my husband kind of had a lot of like baggage. He was like newly fresh out of a divorce. He had 4 kids, 4 boys. And so at the time, like I said, I wasn't like used to kids, really didn't even want kids. So we had like a lot of challenges and, we ended up working through all those things. And even along the way, we've had like a lot of, challenges. Now we're finally 10 years in, but, between years like 4 and 5, we had some challenges. And I'm transparent. We talked about it. We, ended up like going through a separation, and I like filed for divorce, like, and all that stuff. I think a lot of that had to do with my maturity and with how young I was. So we got married when I was 21. So kind of like, 3-4 years in, I think I was around 25, like when we separated, and it wasn't for long. It was like for maybe like 4 or 5 months, but we had a situation, that happened. And I was just kind of like, what, wait a minute, I'm 25 years old. Like I can still go live my young best life. Again, not healed, not going to therapy, not doing any of those things. And I had some bad toxic traits. Like I would act up, and with a blended family, you almost have to leave the pettiness like outside of it. And so I would, go off on his ex-wife. I would just do all kind of like antics. And he would just put up with them. And so it got to a point where I was like, I felt like it was something else, possibly out there for me. I'm like, I'm still young. Like I can do something else. And so that's how I ended up looking back in retrospect. That probably wasn't the right thing to do. And so that's how we ended up separating. And I like filed for divorce and like all this melodramatic stuff. But long story short, we were only separated for like 5 months. We got back together. I started going to counseling for myself. We started going to marriage counseling together. And honestly, since that point in our marriage, it's been like the best thing ever. We still have our hiccups here and there, but I can honestly admit that I had like a lot of healing to do. And even though my husband, if someone were to look, from the outside in, they would say that my husband, like had the baggage because he was really divorced and he had the kids or whatever. I didn't have any kids or anything. But I had really brought in so much baggage just from unhealed trauma, unhealed childhood issues, unhealed emotional abuse, kind of all those things that I was bringing into a relationship. Mind you, having these like toxic relationships before. So I thought toxicity, was somewhat normal.
Right.
So I've really brought in a lot of baggage into the marriage. And it was hard, kind of navigating those things. But once I started going to therapy, once we both started going to therapy, as a couple and doing like marriage counseling and started really getting those tools, that we needed, things got a lot better. And especially one thing I truly credit to is we met like a church. So we went on a cruise kind of after all this happened. And we ended up meeting Black Man Unfiltered. So that's how we met him. And so this was like 7 years ago. Like so it was freshly after our separation and I filed for divorce and all of that. We got back together, we were doing good, so we decided to go on a cruise. So we met Black Man Unfiltered. We met through Black Man Unfiltered, we met S. Dot, and we met 2 other couples that became like our couple circle. So before that, we didn't really hang out with other couples or any of that. Both of us still kind of had like our single friends, and not that anything is wrong with that, but I think that was some of the problem. And then also my family, my immediate family, no one is like really married, like most all are single. And the same thing with my husband, like besides his brother, most of our circles were like single. And so when we met this tribe, and it was by happenstance, and I know it was God. We're just walking on the cruise, and I think me and my husband were like playing cards or something, and Black Man Unfiltered, they started talking to us. And so then we went to karaoke, and I can't sing a lick, but I love to do karaoke. And so Black Man was just killing himself. And we started talking like that. And so from then on, this is 7 years ago, we started talking, they live in a whole different city. We live in a whole different city. We started talking on the phone. We started sharing stories about, just things within marriage and what tools were working for them and things that we had gone through and what tools were working for us. And it just became like a whole tribe. And so now, we take like couples trips. We come down there to see them. They come to see us. But I credit that so much, especially for my husband, because I don't think sometimes the men see or know the value of a tribe. I think we as women, because it's always talked about like, oh, sis, you need to get your tribe. I don't think they know the value of a tribe, but I like almost immediately start to see the changes within my husband. Like he was, opening up, the Black man to the other men in the group. And I could just tell that he started to open up to me like more emotionally and was more willing to tell me, the things that he had on his heart. It was just a whole like almost 180 change. So I always credit, and like I said, I know it had to be God, us meeting them and us, being able to now have this tribe of married people that we could, interact with and connect with and kind of learn from example from that group. So the rest has been, somewhat history. 5 kids later and 10 years later, we still here.
Awesome. Yes. Let's see. Jenny Marina says she was hysterically scared when she found out she was having a daughter. And I could like relate to that because you mother just had a little girl. This is the
Yes.
one girl out of how many boys?
Right. It's 8 boys first, and then
Wow.
she's number 9.
Nine.
Number 9.
And I saw
I'm
that
here.
Miss Mills was stating that, when she was young, she experienced those men hitting on her and like not knowing what to do or trying to like protect your daughter and things like
Yeah.
that. And I think as you build the self-esteem in your kids, and welcome them into womanhood in a safe way, then you can kind of maneuver. Like my mom never, thank you, never made me feel self-conscious about her body, but she never really empowered because I don't think she knew how to empower herself. It's, I think my mom, suffered in some ways in her past, and that just kind of carried over. And I think when we are, definitely when me and my husband chose each other, I knew he was a safe place for one. Like I knew he was gonna break some generational curses with us just being together because the way I was going about my life was totally different than what it was like early in my early 20s. It was just different. And he was a little bit older, so this was a grown man. So I feel like I had to like, get my posture together because, like mother was saying, like, he was like, I'm not gonna put up with that. And in the same way with like my husband, he's very quiet man, okay, but his presence is felt, so it's just like there's this automatic respect that kind of comes naturally from me to him. So one of the things I wish my mom would have told me was all the things that my body was going to go through, like in depth, like just as a woman, and not shy away from the topic of sex, what that means, transference of energy. And I think with having a daughter, you get a new opportunity to present this space of healing for your daughters. So don't shy away from having those tough conversations, because it's better for it to come and they hear love from you as a woman than from a man trying to get something out of the situation. So I would just say, hey, keep the dialogue open. I feel like teenagers, my nieces are crazy, okay? But that's just because their hormones, all this new experience, all this new freedom,
And it's so much stuff now that they have that we didn't even have. It's like crazy.
There's a lot of exposure.
Yeah, it's just everywhere. And it's something about having a daughter. I remember you were saying that, when you were pregnant and you found out, you kept saying that, and I couldn't understand it. And then when I found out I was having a daughter, I understood exactly what you meant. And I'll be honest, I started my healing journey probably like I said, I initially started it, when me and my husband kind of went, through those issues. And I stopped for a bit. I stopped going to therapy and all of that because I had, kind of like some of us do. Oh, well, I'm healed. I'm in the therapy. We good. And I really needed, to like consistently be doing that. And so, I had some of them toxic traits that kind of crept back up. But when I found out that I was pregnant with a daughter, and when I found out I was having a girl, it was something about me wanting to be able to show her an example. And I would think about all the time, like, I don't want my daughter to be out here acting the way, that I was acting sometimes. And I was somewhat ashamed. It made me almost embarrassed of like the toxicity, and when I would, kind of start with those toxic traits, it really made me embarrassed, how I was acting. And so it made me like refocus on like my healing journey and refocus on kind of putting some of those toxic behaviors. Like I said, we go to therapy, we heal from them, but we have to remember that as with anything, consistency is the key. So, you heal from it, and, you let months turn into years go by that you're not consistently, working on your healing. And you start getting triggered, those toxic traits are going to come back up. And so I think that's what had happened with me. And when I found out I was pregnant, and girl pregnancies I had only had boy pregnancies. So I'm having like all these hormones all over the place. And my poor husband, like a lot of them toxic traits I had, like they came out. But it was something about when I found out it was a girl, and it was really like almost a sense of like embarrassment. I'm like, I would never want my daughter, to be acting like this, or to be doing like some of the things. I really kind of almost felt embarrassed. And I think that's what made me, like really refocus me and made me want to, kind of change a lot of those toxic traits. And then that, kind of emerged into, okay, I also don't want my daughter to go through a lot of the things that I went through, before I met my husband. So, it really made me say, okay, well, you have to be that example to her. Even from the moment that she's born, you have to be there. So you need to get yourself healed and in the right place before she even gets to this earth, so that you can be that example and make sure, or do everything that you can to make sure that she doesn't have to go through some of the challenges that you went through in life. Make sure you're equipping her with all the tools. So it was so funny to me, and I told Esdot about it, because she used to always say, and Esdot has always given me good advice and like helped me on my healing journey. Like, sis, you don't have to act like that. Like you, like, and I can call Esdot now and be like, sis, this happened, and I'm really thinking like I ought to do X, Y, Z. No, sis, you don't have to do that. Like, just calm down for a second. Let me, what about this? Or why don't you try approaching it from this scenario? Or why don't you try this? So I'm thankful for SDOT and, having now a group of mature sisters with like a sisterhood, like I said, all from that same tribe where God put us together on that cruise with Black Man. Having, these 3-4 ladies that I can call now, if I need to bounce things off of, and ladies that are going to give me, good advice and good sound advice. But, other ladies that are married and that have relationships. And I say it all the time. I mean, I still have my single friends too, but, you have to, with your friends, you have to know kind of what things, what issues, what topics, you can go to with certain friends. My friends that are single, that haven't been in a long-term relationship, that haven't been in a marriage, when I have issues within my marriage, I don't necessarily go to them to just because they don't have the experience in that way. And like I said, that was some of the problem. I'm telling them what's going on. It's like, okay, well, I think we ought to pull up. It's just a whole different. And I'm real melodramatic, and so they hyping me up with it. Oh yeah, no, you're right. And but whereas, when you have friends that have had similar experiences to yours and are in a marriage and a relationship that want to make their relationship last, that's who I go to now for advice. And like I said, it's not that I've disassociated myself from my single friends or anything like that, because there's still some things, that I talk to them about. But in terms of relationship and marriage and those kind of things, I have to talk to the like-minded. And even with my mom, I've noticed that, because my mom, and I tell people all the time, just because people are older doesn't mean that, that they're mature or that they all give good advice. My mom, had been married, wasn't successful, and just doesn't really have a lot of experience, with a successful marriage or successful relationships. So I've had to realize that I can't really, take advice. If she offers it, a lot of times unsolicited, and I just listen and I'm respectful about it. But I had to, kind of figure out that I can't really, take the advice that she was given was not always healthy.
Now, when you were growing up, did you have parents, or before you were married, I should say, not when you were growing up, or we can include that too, but did you have parents who were candid in discussions with you about marriage and love and sex, or either, a family or close couple that was married? And actually the question is two-part. If you did or didn't have that, then now that you have daughters, each of you have daughters, then would you be candid with your daughter about marriage and love and sex?
I know, I most definitely
tell her everything. Let me tell you, because
I didn't have that, and having to try to figure that out. I really think, and this may not be the sole reason, but I think some of the challenges that I had early on, with men and kind of willing to be in certain relationships or different things, or because I was like naive to a lot of things. I was naive, like about sex. The only thing that me and my mom never talked about like sex or anything like that. When I got my period, my mom said, well, make sure you don't be doing anything because you're gonna get a baby. And like that was it. Like it was never, we learned about sex like at school, like the sex education or whatever. But outside of that, like as far as at home, yeah, me and mom never like talked about sex or any of those things. So I had a really misguided, and then, of course, we've already talked about, couple that with the fact that, you have a little girl that's voluptuous and it has all these things and it's getting a lot of attention, male attention. So I was really misguided about sex, about sexuality, about all of those things. And I feel like if I wasn't so naive and if I would have had kind of the proper education or, really been enlightened on a lot of those things, that I would have, probably saved myself a lot of those challenges, that I had early on. And then in terms of like love in marriage, even within my marriage and the issues that we have within our marriage, I think it was from me not knowing, really what love in a relationship. I knew love like with family, like with my brothers and my mom, but I didn't know love in a relationship between a man and a woman. And I thought that dysfunctional, toxic love was okay because that's the only version of love in a relationship that I had seen was like dysfunction. What is what I know now to be dysfunction and like toxicity. So I didn't know exactly what that looked like. And so I thought it was okay, for me to be toxic to my husband and, do all those. I didn't know how to love my husband. Like, just in all honesty, I didn't know what that looked like, in a healthy relationship. And so I think that, caused a lot of challenges even after I had gotten married. It caused challenges within my marriage. So just from my experience, I want to tell my daughter like everything. I want to, teach her about sex, kind of all those things. And I, hope that we can have a relationship where she feels comfortable enough with me, that we can, have that exchange, because I never felt, even to this day, and I'm 33 years old, I wouldn't feel comfortable like, talking to my mom about sex or like sexual challenges or anything like that, just because it's never been, a topic. It's just something that we didn't discuss. So for my daughter, I hope to, be able to have an open, comfortable relationship with her and talk to her about all those things. And me and my husband have been like really intentional about even showing to our boys, what love looks like. And we let them see us, like, of course, within reason and like PG, but we let them see us, being affectionate. And we let them see us, like doing things for each other and, buying mommy gifts and me doing things for daddy. And we let them see like how much we adore each other. And so for my boys, I've really, tried to impart that in them. And so and I almost get like teary eyed now when I see my daughter, she's 8 months, when I see her with my husband, and just knowing that she's going to know like how a man should treat her, because her dad, the first person that like has her heart is, she's going to see how he treats her mother. And I missed all of that growing up. So, we've been like really intentional about trying to, because my husband didn't have that either. So we've been really intentional about trying to show that to our kids.
Yes. So I'm going to agree and co-sign on all of that. I feel like it's important for you to show both sides. I remember we had an argument, and I'm not a fan of arguing in front of kids, right? And so before I even said anything, we had finished our discussion, and he was like, okay, let me go show my baby, my daughter, how we made up. She's only 2, but to show the dynamic of us having this like argument and whatever, and then to show the healing part of that, like, let me, and he did on his own. I was very proud of him. I was like, oh my gosh, look at you. Because he forgets. Okay. Like, I don't forget. I'm like real mindful about the discussions and the energy that's created in the house around arguments and how it makes people uncomfortable, how your kids are trying to like grab your attention while you like going off and you having all this conversation, and it's the volume and all of that is going on. It's a bit chaotic, but my daughter will start getting loud too, like like she's in there trying to be a part of the conversation. I was like, now I done told you I don't want to have this conversation in front of my daughter like that. Like, I don't want to have that. I want her to see the resolve. I'm not going to hide it from her, but every discussion like this does not have to happen in front of the kids. So when I'm trying to dead a situation, let me dead it and we can pick it back up. And I think that's like setting a boundary even within your relationship, because you are the person that they are looking to as an example. Now, I don't want my daughter to see you getting disrespected and vice versa, because I don't want to raise her into this environment where that is acceptable at any level. Like, we got to figure out how to have healthy dynamics. Now, we don't cuss or anything like that in front of her, but a couple words may slip out, and she's she's repeating stuff. I'm like, this is my first child. I'm very particular about it. So I try to tell my husband, like, hey, look, now. And he was like, yeah, okay, so. And I told him how I felt. I think sometimes when we're having these conversations, sometimes you can't even formulate how you feel during a heated conversation. Like, you can't even sometimes. But I was like, hey, this is how I felt. I know I'm being more calm and in my femininity. I hate that word sometimes. But like, because I'm able to articulate my words better, more calm. If he's if he's at like an 8 or 10, I'm like at a 2 or 3, because I want you to hear me. And I feel like men hear quiet voices more than loud voices, and that's just been my experience. So be mindful of how your husband hears. If he's not receptive because you yelling and you rawing, that stuff, like, you're not being heard, nobody's listening, it could be a lot. So I just want to make sure that she sees both sides of the coin, and make sure that I want her to feel comfortable. We don't use word like purse for vagina, like we say vagina around here. Okay, we using tonical words, like we're saying penis, like we are using the words, because somebody was messing with my purse. No, we're not finna play those games. So like, I want them to know the words. I want them to know. I want her to be like educated in those areas about sex. I want to teach it at home before it's introduced to the world like that, so she knows where it comes from. And so like Mother said, like I get a chance, an opportunity to break an additional generational curse by providing education in a loving way. So that's the goal. Now, there was an earlier question in here that was talking about let me see, what was it? No. It was a little further.
The sexless marriage.
No, there was one even earlier than that. It was about having couples in your life. Is it?
Oh yeah.
Yes. And so I will say that having a tribe, having people that you can confide in, that's rooting for your marriage. When we got married, we went to premarital counseling. It was actually a requirement for me, because hey, I want to know what God says about marriage, and how we can include that stream to make our relationship stronger. And it's much more than just a course, but we had a meeting on Mondays, and getting in there when you're new, you don't have any background of marriage or anything like that. It was just really helpful to see like the reality of stuff, and then like God's way. Like, there's two different ways. You got to figure out how to fuse them together to kind of make them work. And so I definitely wanted to, I definitely think it's important to have a tribe of people who are on the same page as you. It is helpful. Now, if you are linked to couples who are negative and who are not doing their work, then I would not suggest linking up with certain couples who are just not about like really coming together. Like, choose your friends wisely at the end of the day. Every couple is not in alignment with what you want to accomplish.
True.
Everybody doesn't want a great relationship, or they like to do what they want to do. Like if it doesn't align, you must decline. Okay, just go ahead and not be a part of that. Like, the man cheating all the time. Not to say you can't grow,
True.
but they may not be in a space for you to be friends right now. Like, so they may be just social. They might be fun to go out with, but you can't hold no deep conversation like that. You can't. There's some couples that talk too much. That may not be a couple you want to like. They share everything. And so I'm a big proponent of, although I'm in a relationship, my husband's not gonna know about your business. Like, I'm
Right.
not that. My husband gonna know. Like, I am not that type of girl,
I
because at the
love
end of the
that.
day, I don't want my husband, like, if that's private for you as a woman, I do not want to violate you by telling my husband something. Now, although he ain't gonna treat you any different, the point of the matter is not his business. You confided in me as a married woman, or whatever y'all going through, and vice versa, because he ain't gonna tell me nothing that the guys done talked about. I probably find out from the other guys before I would
Right.
find out from my husband, because he's big
Hmm.
on his privacy and other people's privacy. So that's kind of how we operate in our relationship when it comes to like friends and them trusting and talking to us about tough situations.
Yeah.
So
And I
yes,
love that even with our group that I can even talk to like the men. So sometimes, so like I said, I call S dot, and sometimes I want to get like a man's perspective on things. So I can call black man, and it's nothing like S dot said, I don't have to worry about him playing the middle or going back and saying anything to my husband or saying anything to any other people in the group. So I love that, being able to get that male perspective too. And my husband doesn't have any problem. Like, we all know, that it's all love within the group. And my husband doesn't have any problem with me talking to black men, or me, us having conversations. Vice versa, the same thing with like black man's wife. She doesn't have any problem with me talking to black men, and we both call each other, about different issues. Sometimes he'll call me and say yada yada, whatever is XYZ is going on. What do you think I should do? And I'm like, well, me from a woman's standpoint, I think you should do A, B, and C. And so we're able to dialogue like that. And he'll call me back and be like, well, it didn't work this. And I'm like, okay, well, just give us some time. I'm able to, give him that dialogue from a woman's perspective. And same vice versa. When I call him and like tell him some things, that I might be going through, he helps me to get the man. He's like, no, you thinking about it as a woman. You got to think about it, so my brother might be thinking X, Y, and Z. And so that helps me, to get the man perspective. It's so crazy.
yes, he do. He'd be like, "Hey, sis, I'm thinking of getting my wife something.
Yes,
What
yeah.
you think about this?" I'll be like,
And
"Yeah,
I
that's a good one. That's a good
Yeah,
one."
we and all three of us sometimes, me and Started Black Man, kind of talk about, like, and he'll say, oh, well, yeah, I got it, or this happened, and what do you, and so it's nice to hear like the outcomes. And I don't know, I'm just so happy to be like a part of a tribe, male and female, that I can talk to and that I don't have to worry about. Because even with family sometimes, and it's difficult, and I discourage this. So I know within my family, I can't really do that. Like, it's hard to tell your family what you might be going through with your spouse, because you let it go, but your family sometimes holds grudges, and you don't want your spouse getting side-eyed at the cookout, and my mom is really good for that, looking at people all upside their head, and you just don't want that kind of vibe. So it's good to have people that are non-family members, that are, non-biased, that you can go to. And like I said, I love having that balance. I only have brothers. I have all brothers. I have three brothers. So I, kind of naturally gravitated more to like men. So I like being able to have that balance of having like my sisters, but then also being able to talk to my brothers and get like the male perspective on things.
And I think it's beneficial. Like, I didn't have that advantage in my first marriage because I got married so young. So, all of our friends were single. Actually, those friends are still single and have never been married.
Mine too, girl. Mine
And
too.
in my family, everybody was married. I was actually the first person to get a divorce. But I couldn't share with my family because just what Mother said, you can't can't share what's happening in your marriage with your family because they won't let it go. And I know that my family's protective. There's one cross and they're never going to speak to them. They're never going to treat this person the same again. So, all I knew was marriage was for better or for worse. Nobody had really told me what the for worse part was. So
Right.
I was just going through and kind of learning by trial and error and really suffering in silence because I couldn't tell
Right. Because I'm like, what's the boundary? Right.
I
Yeah.
couldn't tell anybody what was going on in my house. So then once I got ready to get a divorce, then it was kind of like a shock to everybody because they thought everything was perfect for all those years when it really wasn't.
Yeah. I want to show my kids like the real. Okay.
Exactly.
And at an age appropriate time, like, my goal is to not be divorced by any means, but just showing the process of what that looks like because, there could come a point in time where now my boundary in this marriage is just to the fence, and hopefully it would be like an amicable type of thing because I wouldn't want to have a situation where my child felt like it was their fault or they could have, like kids go through all of those things and I don't want her to have to experience that at all. And then like trying to be, and I tell my sisters because they think we have like such a perfect relationship, and I'm like, girl, he get on my nerves like all the time. Like I do not want to put on the facade that my marriage is perfect because it works for us, but my things may not be your things. Like if my mama I'm telling her business. My mama has a thing about socks in the bed, child, and she just don't like it. And like it's a quirk of hers. Like everybody like have their quirks, things that they like, things that they don't like. So I never put anybody's relationship on a pedestal because you just never know, what they're going through. We have some marriage mentors. They've been married for like 30 some years. You wouldn't know one of them kids ain't her kids. Like you wouldn't know that from looking at their marriage. So I like to have conversations with older marriages, like new marriages, because you can always learn something new because you're fresh. And so you like, everything is popping right now. And then you get a little further on, like it's good to have those people who have like just different levels. So a couple of years, some tenure in a relationship because you got time, you build some things up. But I never want to put on like everything is okay when I'm not okay. So they always know how I'm feeling. They know the temperature. I have discretion, but like, I'm a very open person because I don't want you to feel like you have to reach this certain and be this certain way or whatever the case may be. And it's unrealistic, especially for your said situation. So there's a question about a sexless marriage.
Sexless marriage.
Okay, let's talk about it. Okay.
A sexless marriage.
I need some time for that one.
Okay. I'm going to say this. Hello, everyone who has who has come in. We thank you for spending a part of your day with us. Okay. So I've been in a situation where I could not have sex because of a medical issue. So it was not, it had been like 8 weeks. This is a long time to not have sex, and hopefully my husband don't kill me. But anyway, so I'm going through this, and to me, it felt sexless. Like it felt like I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is. I don't think there's anything wrong with the sexless marriage because there are other ways to connect to people. There are spiritual, tantric type things that you can do to connect with your significant other that may be non-sexual. So I felt like I was in a sexless marriage, and if that was like a hint of it, I don't want it. Like I don't want it, but I can understand how people can have sexless marriage because men love to tote things, but they may have erectile dysfunction. Indeed, and that's a very real thing. So. I think that you have to build this huge box of intimacy with your significant other. And I did some things in lieu of not being able to do the I tried to keep it sexy as much as I could, but it's a challenge, I think. I don't want that. I don't want to have a sexless marriage, and I'm right there with you.
Rihanna, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for me. Like, I feel like
Mhm.
when women get older and they're coming into their own, so they're ready to like Janet Jackson you on the stage. Like, I feel like when you
Right.
ready. Um, I'm talking too much. And so like it's not for me, but I respect those who can. But to me, it feels like that's a different level of connection that you have to have in order to have a sexless marriage.
Well, the
I don't want
question
that.
came up on another show, and it was said that there are men, or that people on the show knew men that were only getting it 10 times a year.
Once
Mm.
like less than once a month, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I guess it would have to be like if
I
there
can see
was
how it can
like
happen
a
though.
health concern or something like that. Yeah, I guess it would like depend on the reason. And even with like, having kids, so there are sometimes, I have 5 kids. So it's been times, like after, having a baby where, you just can't have sex or whatever. Obviously we
You're
ain't
not
wait till
supposed to.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it
not
was
supposed to. Obviously we don't do that because our kids is like 6, 7, and 8. But
these were
but
situations
you
where
know,
women were just holding out, or is if you behave, then
and
I'll
see, I don't
Oh,
reward
like
you.
the weapon, they
Yeah,
Yeah,
weaponized
they
that
were
I
it.
don't think is right at
weaponizing it.
all. So that's why I said the
That's
reason. If it's
wrong.
like a health thing,
Wrong.
It's
yeah, I
wrong.
think we could maybe get past that, like you said, like erectile dysfunction, different type of illnesses, that sort of things. I think
That
you
ain't right.
can,
He said
get
seven
past
times
that.
in
But
college with
if
sex.
it's just something,
It's
like
about
you
11
holding
holidays.
out,
Which holiday?
something like that, I just don't know. It's not right. And I think, I've never been into that because we have to remember too, that's not nothing that is only unique to you. And no, cheating and all that good stuff is not right. But if you keep, depriving a man and you thinking that you can play these, forgive me, I don't know the term, these pussy games with a man,
Mm-hmm.
it's not gonna, it's not. Because unfortunately, they're not kids, like you can't just restrict them. And so, like I said, no, cheating and all that good stuff, it's not right. But playing those games, it's not right either. And sometimes I don't know what, like women are hoping to gain out of, playing these games, and
It's gonna backfire.
not giving
It's
it
gonna
sex
backfire.
or, kind of those type of things. And I
There's
just
no
don't understand. And
longevity in
I'm with you,
that.
Brianna, like, what is it about, like, what I just couldn't even
If you don't
understand.
like his sex, you need to talk about it. Let's talk about that. Because if
Yes.
you feel
Like,
like you
why?
can hold, I want that thing all the time. I don't want it just a
Exactly.
little bit. Like,
Yeah, I'm
I
just not
don't
understanding how you could even,
want
and
some.
I don't know, maybe because that's high on my love language too. So I just don't understand. Like, I need my husband to be like, all the time. There's a whole pound cake over here. I need you to be like, so I just don't understand like how y'all can, how they even seeing each other. Even if I call myself having an attitude with my husband. When I see him, like fresh out the shower, I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't understand how, like they just giving in to, oh, I don't care how much I'm interested. I'm gonna play this game and I'm not gonna give you none. I don't know, because women want
Big
it so
mistake,
for me,
ladies.
it's not
Don't do
about
it.
me giving him none
Don't.
because I be wanting it too.
And
So
that's where I have questions, because I'm like, it's supposed to be a mutual exchange. So if you deny
yes.
him, then you're denying yourself, or is something else going on?
You
Yeah.
need to
It's
look
almost like
within.
they said like a chore or something. And I
I
don't
mean,
know.
because his sex could be whack, and that could be a reason why you're not having sex, or you can put it. But that's like that is an opportunity. I think people see these, not having sex like you're gaining. You are literally sucking
Losing.
the life out of your
You're losing.
relationship,
Yeah.
uh, devoiding it from intimacy and sex. Like, and those are two different things because some people think intimacy and sex are the same thing. They not the same thing. Okay, like don't get it twisted. Um, like if you have a low like Bree, my husband's sex drive is lower than mine. So that's a different dynamic that some people don't talk about because they're like, oh, men just want it all the time. I'm the man. Okay. I want it all the time. I don't mind all the time. Okay, I welcome all the time. I'm
What
manifesting
Brianna
all the
said.
time.
Right? Exactly.
It's a duty. It's a duty.
Yeah,
It's not a thing of convenience. It's not when you feel like it. If you
right.
don't feel
Yeah.
like it, you better make it available. Suit it up and gone back to sleep or something. I don't know. You got to do something.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not about to starve my husband, and I don't want him to starve me. So I don't put that out in the relationship like that. Like I'm not. What is this? I have a question. Why is head? Oh, okay. Let's talk about
Oh,
oral
Black,
sex.
I
We'll
knew
get
it
to
was,
that.
I knew it was gonna come up. I
Black
knew it
I
was
knew
man,
it
gonna
was
he
come
gonna
up.
come
going
up.
all the
Okay,
way in. He going all the way
I knew it was
okay.
gonna come up.
But I will say, like, okay, figure out, because everybody's sex drive ain't the same. Sometimes you need to schedule sex. Some people are against that, but like, you need to build in. If you build in time for work, for activities, you need to build in time for sex. Everybody can't do the spontaneous thing, especially if they are busy people and all of that good stuff. I do also recommend self pleasure. People are against it, but if you don't know how that thing works for you, how you gonna teach that person how to love you?
Exactly.
And that's just what I'm gonna say on that.
Exactly.
So I do, yeah, I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm gonna leave it right there. Y'all can take it where y'all want to go. But
having candid conversations though in the beginning, or is the confusion because they're not having the conversations before marriage and then they
I
expect to
didn't.
work it out afterward?
I didn't. I think that's
So
what it is.
and
Like I
people
feel
have
like.
to realize too. Sometimes even when you have the conversation, like things are gonna change. Like me and
Mhm.
my husband's sex life was totally different, before we had 5 kids and 5 little kids. So I think sometimes people do have the conversation before and it's all good. We ain't got no kids. We just doing it all the damn time. You know, and then life changes. Like things happen. Both of y'all, hopefully get further in go further in your careers, your duties probably increase in your careers, and you're busier at work. And then not to mention when kids start coming along. Like you gotta get creative. Like Brianna was laughing at me because I was, you gotta be willing when you have that many kids, especially a big family, baby, you gotta be willing to go get it in the washroom at the end of a cocoa melon. When their favorite part coming on, you gotta be willing to dip out. So you have to get creative and be willing to like change up. It ain't gonna be, you have to move like as your marriage changes and grows and you get into new dynamics, you have to like alter your sex life to that too. And make sure that you're modifying that because if not, it's easy to get caught up in, we got so much going on, we, like almost don't have time like to do it or something like that.
It's a
I'm
priority.
so
Like
over. I'm so over. Like,
if
you know,
you don't bake,
you want to talk about it? Let's go and talk about it. Let's go and talk about the whole head thing. Like, let's just talk about it. Okay, he keep bringing it up.
well, okay. Before we talk about it, I want to say that sometimes, okay, the church has not done a good job with explaining sex and pleasure. Okay, let's just put
Not at
that on
all.
out. They have not done a good job, and I don't even know if it's necessarily their responsibility, but there are scriptures in there that are very sexually explicit,
Mm-hmm.
that they go there in the Bible. So I think the church should go there as well, because that's where y'all preaching from. So let's, we need to go there and have those conversations. And in those circle groups, the actually was Christian based, but we talked about sex in there. And so I don't think it's a conversation like when me and my husband, when we first got together, we thought like, I don't know why I thought the sex life was gonna like change immediately after. I think it was because we were trying to do it God's way and not have sex before marriage and all that thing. And I honestly don't believe in that really, because I want to know what that thing do before I say I do forever. Now that ain't biblical at all, so forgive me. However, I want to know what it is like. I'm going to be with this forever. Does it have potential to grow? Is it not there? Is the chemistry there? Whatever. Because some people have arranged marriages. Like there's just so many different facets to that. So what I
Can
will
you
say,
teach them
like,
though? Can you teach
if
somebody?
a man is willing to listen
True.
and
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
feel like his sexuality is being threatened, because
Yeah.
men, I don't think they like women can like kiss girls and do all of this stuff and have all this exploration, but men, especially black men, don't necessarily, they just want to put their thing in and
Right.
had a
Exactly.
nut and that's it. Excuse my
Yeah.
language. And that's all they think it is. Like
Yeah.
that's just it. That's the
I think
level.
we
That's
need
as
to
far as it
normalize
goes.
like showing men how to love us and how to, because even though my husband was like, of course, like very sexually versed, I still had to almost show him like how to, how to get me right and what it is, that I like. And like as I said, a lot of that comes from like sex and exploration, like being able to explore yourself. And I'm a proponent too of like, self pleasure, because that helps you to figure out what it is that you like, what you need to, with your wills to get you going, And so I had to know myself enough to be able to teach, in quotes, my husband how to like love me and how to please me correctly. Even though they have, they might have experiences with Sally and, with
Tell you, I didn't like what Sally
and
and them
whoever.
did.
And
Okay,
Lachey might like him to, just come in and beat that thing down. But that is not, I had
girl,
to
them
show
quick
him
5
like
pop, 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 pop. Like who does that?
yes, and
Don't do
I'm not
that.
into that.
Don't do that.
So I had to show him, I had to almost teach him like how to, love me and please me in the way that I like to be pleased.
And that
I
only
think we need
comes
to
from
normalize
you
that.
knowing yourself in a way. Like, but let me just say this, okay? You have to leave it open too, because let's just say your partner wasn't as good as somebody that you hit up back in the day, because we're gonna go there.
Woo.
So if you have to open up your mind, because this is your life partner, okay? Say you had, I don't know what, DeMarcus or something. I'm just gonna use a random name, like DeMarcus or something. Like back in the day, just make that thing do what it do. Okay, you come in with that relationship. So I know K Soul, shout out to K Soul, brings up like, this is why I'm a proponent of waiting until marriage. I get that, because then you have all this expectation of what you experienced in your past, and you bring that baggage and that same expectation. But this is a new slate. This is a different person. So you can't always force what you had in your past onto your other. So I'll say it like that. You can't always expect for your significant other to be or to have what Jill Scott said, like, I had that same guy try that same cologne and it stunk on him. Okay?
Right.
It stunk on him. It did not work. So at the end of the day, like, you have to be open and mindful sexually. And that goes for another man, because some men bring in, say, your homegirl, Jennifer, or whatever, was slobbing that thing down, like she was just making you see stars, and then you get in your marriage and your woman is uncomfortable with oral sex. Well, what do you do with that? Do you forcefully say that, or do you coax, or do you have open conversations and dialogue or whatever? And Brie, I'm with you. It's a duty, but there's still a level of, you want your significant other, you want them to kind of be willing
to like you,
to do it. They may not always
when they're complaining that, like, say that they're not getting oral as much as they want. Is that because the women aren't sexually satisfied? Like, if we're more sexually satisfied, are we inclined to give more?
Like, I think people have made it nasty.
Space is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think
if he does this, then I'll give him what he wants.
No, I'm an individual when it comes to sex. So like, if I'm gonna do something for you, because it's me, I want to do something for you. Like, I'm gonna do this regardless of if I was mad at you earlier, because that's a part of my love language and knowing, like, even if we got into it, I'm not finna like hold off because it's something I enjoy. So I don't do that. That's not me. But I do know some women who their men like it. I have a homegirl of mine. Her mother taught her that oral sex was nasty, and it's something that she literally.
I grew up in that era.
Okay, so you know, Genesis, like,
I grew up in the era. You don't have oral sex. You only do missionary. You don't wear thong underwear. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but a lot of them ones that be saying that, like, cut it out. This stuff ain't come from out of nowhere. Y'all was, and that's just like, forgive me, in the church they be preaching that, and the preacher, I ain't gonna say the preachers, but some of them be running around here messing with, and they out there doing it. They out there getting their dick sucked all the damn time, and they preaching not to be doing pregnancy.
You weren't
And that's
supposed
who they
to
cheating with. They
say
cheating with the ones that sucking the dick. Like, so I can't.
Yeah, I
He
think
said some men
I think
prefer
we
head.
have to unlearn that. I think we just whatever we took from our previous experiences with knowledge that we have to unlearn and be open to our mates. Like, what do you like? And ask those exploratory questions and
Yeah.
stop trying to, instead of saying, like, my mama taught me, because there's only so many times that you're going to use your parents as an scapegoat. Like, you
Mhm.
cannot keep using your parents, what you did back in the day. You like that is an excuse. You
And
get a
let's not
new,
forget, parents don't know everything. There's no
yeah.
Exactly.
My
handbook
mama ain't
for
never said no
parenting,
stuff
and
like
it's
And,
that.
and
all
it's
based on
only so
personal
much your
experience.
parents gonna share with you too. I'm sorry, I'm of that belief.
True.
Like
Right.
we don't know what mama and them granny them was having 13 and 14 kids. We do not know how all they was getting down because
And we
Papa
don't
wouldn't
even
just
know
be
if she
this dang
enjoyed it. You
missionary
know,
all the
like
time.
she liked
They was
it.
having
It was
all them
great.
kids. So I'm a firm believer. We ain't start this stuff off. It's been going on for
Yeah.
years. Like, so I think that's part of a little bit too. Like some people have a lot of judgment, but we have to remember we don't know what goes on in people's bedrooms. You know, the very people that are out here, you know, damning oral sex and damning all these other things, they could be doing the same thing. Or if not, they probably cheating with somebody that do. So I don't know. And I know sometimes I think it don't be right, but that's how I feel about that. So I don't think we should give any room like for judgment to other people. Whatever I do in my
Yeah.
bedroom with my husband is
Business
my business.
undefiled.
And
Yeah.
I'm, you know, like open to satisfy. So the same way I'm saying, you know, that I almost had to teach my husband like how to love me. I mean, how to, you know, how to please me in that way, in which I do feel as a form of love. You know, when you provide, and we have to remember that that is a reason that physical touch and all those things are a love language. Because to me, like sex is an expression, you know, of love and of his love. And so I do the same thing for him. Like, you know, what is it that you want? You want to see me up on the well, sometimes so can we talk about expectations too?
Yeah, go there, please go there.
Expectations. You know, you want me, you tell what? Get on the fan and like you swinging from
On
the ceiling
the
fan.
pop it on
Like
the headstand.
we
Well,
have,
Okay.
if that's what
yes,
works for y'all, then do that.
yeah, but we have. I
The
mean,
only
but men
limits
have
where it
to
should
be.
be are the ones you all set.
Yes,
Yeah, because
exactly.
I'm
But you
curious
know, we
if she
have
don't
to
want
be
to do
realistic
some.
about our expectations. Now, would I try to get on the ceiling fan? Yeah, I probably would. I'm gonna give everything at least a try.
What
Is
is
it
it,
gonna
right? I'm
be
gonna give it. I'm gonna give it all that I got.
right?
Okay,
I'm gonna
like, I'm
try
gonna.
it out. And I think it's just more about that. So, you know, sometimes, you know, we say, oh, the expectations, oh, they want all this and that. Like, I ask my, like, you know, what is it that you want? And sometimes after you, so remember, we've been together 12 years and been married 10. Having sex with the same person, you know, for that many years, like you have to spice it up. You know, you have to try new things. You have to be willing to open. So I'm like really open with him, and I even look at things and like, you know, well, hey, he's very open, like to trying things. So like I said, even if you know he come to me with some outlandish stuff, I'ma try it. It might not be exactly right, but I'm gonna give it the effort, and I'm gonna do
And
all that I
try you just
can.
to make sure. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
do at least
just to
2 times just to make sure it ain't for me, so I can.
yeah, and it makes him, and it makes him feel a certain type of way, that I'm willing to, I think a relationship,
The
if they
effort
at
goes
least
a
even
long
willing to
way.
try it, and even like the whole head thing, and that someone, kind of have hangups about that, help her through that. I think sometimes, men, y'all want to get frustrated, and well, that's just, and start demanding, how much you need that and this and that. Why not try to help your wife, like, or your partner, like, work through that? Try to figure out what their hangups are about that.
So
Try to help her work through that. Don't come, being all demanding and,
No,
talking about how frustrated you are.
there is a Black-owned company. Her name is Sexologist Michelle on Instagram. You can book a virtual appointment with her and
I
her
love to see it.
husband, so you guys can discuss. Like, if you are anybody, it's for anybody. We met her at a marriage retreat. She had a section, a goodie bag with goodies in it, oils, mask, feathers, just a whole little goodie bag of things. And there's nothing, what is that scripture about? Like, there's nothing undefiled in the
marriage
bedroom.
bed is undefiled.
Yeah.
Yes, so thank you. because I don't know all the scriptures right. And so, like, at the end of the day, like, there's nothing that you cannot do. So whatever you was told, I just want to make a public PSA. If you are a woman, a black woman, and your mama, your whatever, do whatever you want to in your bedroom, especially if it's something that, like, try it at least twice. Okay?
Right.
At least 2 times to make sure. Maybe your balls wasn't tasting good that day and it left a salty. Like, hygiene is important. Okay.
Right? Try
So,
some chocolate.
We gotta get the men to talk about that though.
Yeah.
We gotta get the men to talk about that because
Yeah.
you can't be musty.
Right, true.
Coming in there after a 12-hour shift talking about you
Exactly.
you know, taken care of. Like, that man,
Right.
And then y'all gotta warm that thing up. Some of y'all be coming in there, you know, we've talked about it, baby. We are slow cookers. This is a whole honey baked ham, honey. You gotta put this in the crock pot, put the brown sugar and all that stuff up. You can't just, and like I said, that's just me. You have to figure out what's your wife's love language and what she needs. You know, because for me, that is very important. If you set the mold up right, you get me, you know, all nice. You put the brown sugar and all that stuff in, baby. I'm gonna be. That's what gets me ready. That's what gets me in the mood. It makes me like open to other things. You do have some people that don't need all that. They're a hot pocket. Like, you can just throw them in the microwave, you know, for 2-3 minutes, and they good to go, and that's okay. But you have to figure out, you know, what your partner is like and what it is they need to feel comfortable and to feel, you know, sexually, you know, at a safe place sexually where they're open, you know, to trying new things. I think sometimes
set the atmosphere.
Yeah, they don't go about it the right way.
That's why I'm like, I'm not against planning it. It'd be great if you can, you know, you can plan a weekend. Say your husband, my husband's usually the planner, but every now and then I will do like some candlelight and I just set the ambiance. I'll take a fresh bath or I'll take him, you know, bathe him up a little bit or something. And I'll set the mood, because if your person is like shyer in the bedroom, you have to kind of warm them up to whatever. Like, I've always been like open about what I want. You don't have to guess. I'm gonna lead you left, right, up. Yeah. You know, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I want and what I like. Now, you know, it can become a chore for a man who is not sexually explored or whatever the case may be, and that's where you get these tools. You have these dialogues. You can get, I got some Love Lingual on Amazon. You know, you can't see it very well, but like, there's certain things and tools that you can use so that you can warm up and create an environment. And that's where your femininity comes in, because you get to control what that looks like. And if he trusts you, he's willing to follow your lead in those areas. There's a way to lead in the bedroom that doesn't emasculate your man. So just keep that in mind too. Like, I've been rough on the conversation before, like real rough. And I think it's because I came in with really high expectations and I didn't clean that slate before I got married, because I was in my 20s. You know, when I was in my 20s, there was a lot of things that thrilled and filled me at that time. Like, I was just having a good time. So I had all these different experiences, and I come to this man, and at the time I was meek and mild with him because that's what he was receptive to. So then when my true self, like when the representative was gone, this is like, you know, hey, he's like, who is this woman? Like, some men get really shocked at some of the things you do. It's like they want, let's just talk about that real quick, because men love to talk and downplay and call women hoes and want to tell them about like they got miles on them, but them the same men who love the experience of Miss Miles Sally. Okay? They love a woman who has all this experience and wants to slob. You think that came?
She learned that somewhere,
baby, because ain't no virgin finna be giving head every night. So stop. So cut it out.
Yeah,
cut it out.
Yeah. So I think men have to be aware that and hoes get married. Excuse me, I don't want to call them hoes.
Hoes is winning right now. Let's
exactly right.
Hoes are winning right now.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, men always say, well, not always, a lot of times men talk about women who have mileage on them and that they are worthless and blah, blah, blah. But those are the same men that go to those women and have these relationships with these women and be trying to wife them up sometime, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, let's stop playing like we can't. No, they're not.
They're
Black
not.
men.
They're
No,
not.
they're not.
They're
No,
not.
they're not. They just not.
Right.
All,
He-
all this head, y'all been on here talking about head like since the whole like y'all put I don't know how many comments in there about head.
That's the thing.
Like,
But then y'all want to marry virgins and then get
Exactly,
mad
baby.
that they
Virgins
can't
are not getting
perform.
down like that. Virgins ain't making it squirt and swinging from the ceiling fan and all this stuff that y'all be wanting. They are not doing it. Oh, make it squirt funny.
Oh, listen.
They are not doing it. Like, stop. Cut it out. They ain't.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah, I think-
he just asked, Black man just asked about why the husbands got to warm you up and Ray them just show up. They do not understand that Pookie and Ray, sometimes they are just sport fish.
Exactly.
Just like y'all just want to hit it and quit it, sometimes that's what we want to do. We want to smash and dash.
Exactly.
So Pookie and Ray ain't the marrying type, but he's okay for tonight.
Right. Exactly. Yes. You hit that right on the edge, Genesis. Right on the
Because
edge.
they think
I
that
don't know why they don't
have
think
the
that we have
capability of separating.
Every
that.
man is not husband material, just like every woman is not wife
not
material.
For some
that's why
reason,
you
men
married
tend
to-
think that we don't have like the same sexuality or the same sexual things that we do. I mean, that they do.
Let's talk about
We
it.
do. We have all those same sexual things. Just like how sometimes, that's why I don't understand the whole women that be holding out on sex and this, that, and the third. The same way y'all be wanting it and y'all go in for it, women are the same way. The same way y'all can, sometimes it's just purely about sex and that's all you want. We are the same way and we can have that same mindset. I don't know why they just feel like that our sexuality and our sex is so different, from theirs.
It's the same. We look at them and when we see a fine man, be like, oh, girl, he can get it. In our sister circles. We having the same conversations they having. We just can't talk about it publicly because it's not ladylike.
Right. Exactly. And we need to normalize that too. Like I'm so tired of that. Like
I don't know. I tell my husband, you see that big old booty girl?
Exactly.
I saw
at
it
least we can, and that's
why
why
he saw it right. You know he saw it too. Like,
let me just help you a little bit so we can both, so you don't feel, because just because you looking don't mean you trying to touch. You just looking. You're not dead. You may be older, but you're not dead. So hey, maybe it was an outfit she had on. You want me to go get that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can learn from certain situations and it not lead to destruction of your marriage, So I'm always a proponent of like, okay, whatever you want to try, we can try. Whatever, I just don't want, because some men feel like sex is a chore for them too, because they don't feel comfortable in their sexuality. And what? It's okay for them to look at.
Oh no, dude! Like, cut it out, Black man. You know what you know what the issue was with that.
Yeah, you do too much, Black man. Okay, y'all go too far. Like, my husband got a chat, and I think the guys, I'm airing out their stuff. I don't care. But the thing is that they have like an explicit day where they be posting pictures or whatever they be doing in the group. And so, like, that don't bother me. My thing is, I'm confident in who I am as a woman, and knowing you ain't never gonna touch them titties. Like, you never finna lay hands on this person that you
not at all.
And that's
lusting
the thing.
over.
A lot of times, the women that they idolize and they be crushing on, like, that woman wouldn't even give you the time of day.
Would not. But so I do it like, I don't try to, even though I know that you wouldn't get the time of day, I'd be like, oh, that's what you like? Like, oh, okay, well, tonight, hold on, baby, that's what whoever is he looking at, baby, you gonna get a different woman, like, because after so long, like, you have to keep it like spicy. Like, okay, you looking at Meg the Stallion, okay, you finna get Meg the Pony. Like, my nails ain't as good, I'm trying to say, we finna work it, we gonna work this thing on out, like. So I try to make it funny and like laugh about it. Like, it's like, so we do that too. Like, if I walk by something, I'm like, oh, I'll be like, or I'll start off and be like, oh yeah, she's pretty, huh? And he'll say something, and I'm like, yeah, you ain't looking at her face, So I'll make it like funny, like kind of joke about it, so that it's not like awkward. But at the same time, but I use that too to like, spice it up. Now you ain't finna be, like crushing on like none of our friends or no stuff like that. People we actually know. But
Right.
if you're looking at like I say, they got that secret chat. You're looking at these people, these stuff. I'm like, okay, well that's what I'm coming to bed as tonight. We better.
I'm
I'm
trying
gonna
to
try.
Role play.
let me get my
Yes,
little wig on.
might be, beyond the expectations. Like I said, sometimes the expectations you gotta control, but I'm gonna try. And I'm gonna give it my best because that's the same thing I want from him. I want you to try and do your best. As long as I know that you're doing your best, like to please me, like that in itself is gonna be attractive to me. Because for me, I don't know, pleasure. I'm in my mind a whole lot with sex. So it's a lot of, and people used to call it like a mind fuck. Like, and kind of, to me, that's kind of what it like. I'm always in my head. So it's a lot of like mental things that go into, like pleasing me. And so if I know that you're putting forth this effort and you doing all these things to pleasing me, like that's turning me on in itself, so that's why
That's why it takes so long.
Yeah,
to answer your question.
that's the reason I gotta be heated up. That's why I'm not down for the, beat down, this, that, and the third. Well, not all the time. All those times where, you'll have a whole lot of time. I can understand that too. So I think it's just the different scenarios. But if I know you putting forth the effort, like that's attractive to me. Like that's sexy. And then along with that, it's other things. When you get to different parts in your life, like it's different stuff that's sexy too. When my husband cleaned up the kitchen, or he get the kids together and get the kids clothes out and stuff and take it them to school, baby, that's so sexy to me. I'm so turned on. Like, so it's different, things like kind of as your marriage evolves and changes, like you have to adapt to, now that's the kind of stuff that's sexy to me. And I'm like, because
when you read that storybook to my daughter, I'll be like, I can hear it on the monitor, and I'll be like, that's just
it's so
I like
sexy,
the way you read
right?
that
So
story to my baby. You was so animated.
It's like, oh, that's getting me so aroused, like get me turned on because I know that he's going out of his way to make things easier on me. Mm-hmm. And so to me, like that speaks to some of my love languages. It's like, okay, yes, like, okay, you're gonna get it tonight because, and then that's the other thing. Sometimes men are like, oh, you too busy for this, that, and the third. Help me. You're trying to get some tonight. Help me get the kids together. I'm trying to cook dinner. You see me trying to get the clothes out, trying to do all these things. You want some tonight? Like, help me so I can get to bed earlier. Like, figure it out. We got a tag team on this thing. So, I think men have to take a step back and look at what you can do too to help.
And are you still performing those 1999 moves? Okay, let's just. Are you still performing Luke in the bedroom? Like, is that still what's going on in your mind? Because you have to flip it too. Like, you have a couple of tools. You have your hands, you have your mouth, and you have your penis. Okay, so those are some things that you can utilize as a man that can warm her up prior to, and you have tools. Let's talk about sex toys,
and
because some men,
you can dress up too.
Yes, you can. Silk boxers, oil your body up.
Oh my goodness. I love to I like to when we go on vacation and stuff. I like to knock on the door with like my head on thing and be like, housekeeping, That's an easy one. You don't have to like dress up.
Write that down, ladies.
And I roll in there like, oh, is your wife gone? I have been eyeing you all day, sir. And is your wife gone?
Or at the bar. You can fake at the bar.
That's an easy one. You don't really have to prepare for it. Like you can easily do that. It's simple things that you can do, like to keep it spicy.
Yes. He ain't gotta cheat outside if he can cheat with me.
That part.
I'm gonna be a maid today. I'm gonna be a schoolgirl next week.
Right?
We're gonna switch it up.
Right?
Yes. So I would say, like, even with that, I feel like some men don't expand. They like want their ego stroked. Like,
True.
Like they can't stand criticism.
Like, why you need all that?
Like, and it's constructive because, at the end of the day, if you've been doing missionary for 10 years, bro, like, at least can I go to the edge of the bed? You know, like
Right,
can we
something,
get on the
yes.
couch? We got all this couch, we got all this house, or you know,
Yeah.
like there are so many different things. And my husband's visual, he like lingerie and stuff. So I'm like thinking like, okay, let me go buy certain things and let me or because me, you know, lingerie, no lingerie, whatever you like. But my thing is like if that's something that he want, I'm gonna go slide that on. Be
Right.
open to that. But like mother said, like help me, relieve me from some of
Right.
my duties so that I can perform this duty because it's about like prioritizing what is important for that particular day. So like I planned a date night. And guess what? Every date night don't have to lead to something sexual because that's
Right.
like a deposit into the relationship. So like we played this game and it was like about there's different like it's about sex, like there's different little topics in there. But our dialogue was about family and they had a lot of cards, just conversation starters. And so I think it was good to do certain things like that because we don't always need to have sex when we're having intimate moments because you need to know how to be intimate with your mate without what is he saying without
Yeah,
Come
sex.
that's
on,
right. That's
guys.
right. It is not
No, this is not no
blasphemy.
blasphemy. This is real. Y'all want to know how women really feel about
We
it? We
gonna
really
learn,
want
y'all. We gonna learn, y'all,
Yeah,
because y'all got
right?
it all
yeah.
wrong.
This is the honest truth.
I
Y'all got
really,
it all
yeah, like
wrong.
there's no need to try to I want to validate men and their experience. Yes, pelvic floor.
Oh yeah.
Yes, especially after you have a baby, you can actually go to therapy for that. Like if you feel like your pelvic floor and your, you know, your thing not thinking no
Right.
more.
Some
Those
kegels.
like I don't know if I felt normal. The first time I had sex after a baby, it just felt weird. Just felt so strange and like I was on bed rest before, so I couldn't have sex anyway. So it's just like I've had a couple of times not being able to have sex. It is for the birds for one, but two, like just there are other ways that you can show intimacy, whether it's holding hands, whether it's kissing, whether it's caressing, whether it's a massage. Like I did a massage for my husband. Now I was not planning on doing anything, but that got him so excited that like he was ready to go. I was like, no, 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 you know, like this is just I'm just doing something nice for you. And that turned into something else. I wasn't thinking that way, but like maybe as women we can like men have their stress, find out what your husband is stressed about and try to relieve it too because that my husband carries a lot of responsibility, so I want to make sure that just like he's picking some things up or taking care of the baby, that I'm relieving him from some things as well because as men they have all this stuff that's on their shoulders. I don't want to dismiss them, but they have a lot of things on their shoulders and we could do a better job with trying to like relieve the pressure for them or whatever those duties may be. So, what is this? Yes, Bree. Yes, I got
Oh,
adjusted.
I
It
didn't
was
know
great.
that.
Yes, it's great.
I didn't know that.
Your body is out of alignment after, like your spine literally like pushes back when you're having a baby, and it don't always go back the way. I have a lot of back pain, so yes, I. What did she say?
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't like
it's
sex
right.
after.
Sex after a
Yeah,
baby. Yeah, it kept me
I
kind of
wasn't
scared.
scared. It's just uncomfortable. Like my vagina
Really?
was different
It
afterwards.
was the C-section for me because I'm not gonna lie, and it's evident by all the kids right behind each other. After the vaginal births, like we waited probably like a week, maybe 2 weeks, because I wasn't a bleeder like that, and
Not a
so
week,
it
every two
stopped pretty
weeks.
quickly. And I felt like I was good to go. Like with vaginal births, I was
Me
fine, and
too.
like my pregnancies would be totally fine. It was the C-section that took me out. So with my daughter, with the last one, I had to have a C-section, and I felt so weird, like sexually and having sex for the first time after the C-section. It was just, and I don't know if it was because of the scarring and like my belly and things. Everything just felt like super weird. Yeah,
And
it
my
was.
experience
Yeah.
Yeah.
was totally different. I was ready to go each time. I have 4 kids, and I was counting down to my 6 weeks.
I definitely did 6 weeks. I couldn't and I still didn't feel normal. Like I wanted to, but like I just felt like I had to give my body time to like really heal and get back into like the sexy person, because now I'm a mom. I'm having to figure out what my sexuality looks like after being a
True.
mom. And I didn't
Really?
think it would affect me that way, but it did. For me, I'm like, I don't, am I sexy? I don't know if I'm sexy anymore. Like, I just went through that. I went through all of these changes of losing weight before to prepare to have my baby, and then I have all this weight after, and now I'm breastfeeding, and like, are these breasts for him still? Like, do you want these still? Like, I was just going through a
Yeah.
whirlwind with my body. Like, we were just battling. Like, I won't be like this next time, because I just feel a lot more comfortable in my body. But yeah, like, some women are getting into groups, breastfeeding groups that help, because one of the moms was like, yeah, I feed my baby and my husband. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow. Like, that was
Right.
cool to see that it's not weird. People make it weird. People will
Yeah.
make things strange, and like push things and ideas on you, and you have to like cut out all the noise and show up. So, oh yeah. Ooh. Mm-mm.
Do
Yeah.
what's good
So
for
yeah,
you.
I would say, what are the ways that you what are some romantic tips that you can give women when it comes to sex and, exploring and all that good stuff?
I say, we have to, I've said this, I don't know how many times within the past week, but we have to be intentional. Yes, we want to protect our hair, but, we can't be walking around with bonnets all day long. And, yeah, you want to go to bed to protect your hair, but not every night. You know, give him a
Silk
night.
pillows.
Yes,
Yeah.
Like,
right. Silk pillowcase.
Mhm.
Invest in some lingerie. You know, and lingerie, just like we want to set the mood, him to set the mood before we get to the bedroom, then put on the lingerie, and walk around in the house with it a little while before you go to bed. Give him something to look at, tease him a little bit. And like
Mhm.
we talked about, as far as keeping it spicy, be open, try something different. Don't be like some of our grandmothers or mothers were. Let's do some things. Experiment. Have fun.
True.
yes. How about you, mother?
Kind of, the same things. Like I said, definitely be open and be willing to try stuff and really be willing to spice it up. I know everybody, I'm melodramatic. I know everybody ain't like that, but I'm willing to, baby. I'm gonna come as a different person every night. You finna get somebody new. And so I know, like, I say that a lot, like in jest and like being funny, but a lot of it, like, is true. Like, kind of setting the mood, like making sure, that you're keeping it spicy and be willing to check in, like with your husband or your mate. I ask him, even
Yeah.
though we've been together so long, I still ask him, like, so what is it that you want? Like, what is something that you've always wanted to do or that you want to do that we've never done before? Like, I check in with him and say, like, hey, like I said, it might not be, the expectations might be a little crazy, but I want to always try. And I'm gonna always, show up and do my best. I might not be swinging from the fan, but I'm gonna be in the air. I'm gonna try to figure it out, and I'm gonna try to give you some version, of what it is that you're looking for. And I think, that helps. I think he appreciates that, and vice versa. I am to a place where I feel really comfortable with my husband and really comfortable and being, because I think some women struggle with that too. Being comfortable enough to tell your husband, like what it is that you want, with all these folks out here in the manosphere, like, man, the whole shame and this, that, and the third. I think some women now are afraid that, like, if they ask for certain things, that, their husband might think that they're a hoe or that they have been a hoe in their previous, just some of those kind of toxic behaviors. But I think you have to be comfortable enough. You got to be in a healthy place in your relationship where y'all both can openly, comfortably ask for exactly what it is you want. If you saw something, and you want to try it out, or you saw a sex toy, that you want to try out, be comfortable enough and know, that you with a partner that's not going to think like, oh, well, who you been talking to? Or who been in your ear? Like, oh, like that sort of thing. Because there are relationships, and I've had friends tell me that when they try to introduce new stuff in the bedroom, now the man is like suspicious of who they've been talking to or where you learned that from. Who taught you that? Those kind of things. Just make sure first that you in a healthy relationship. Y'all have a healthy dynamic, and that way you can feel comfortable enough, to bring up new things. And sometimes we gotta set the mood. Sometimes I do the same thing too. I do the candlelight, for the candlelight baths, and sometimes he come from a long day of work. We're not the only ones that need to be romanticized. And
Right.
sometimes men probably don't admit it, but they be slow cookers too.
Mhm.
Sometimes, they like that, anticipation. So, you can open the door, you can have rose petals and stuff on the floor for him. Open the door naked or in some lingerie. Let him, the whole
Initiate.
time or be in there cooking. Oh, this a easy one. Be in there cooking, butt naked, cooking your husband's favorite meal. And just let him, he'll sit there the whole time and watch you cook. So they like that too. They like they slow cookers. They don't be wanting to admit it. But they slow cookers and they like that anticipation and kind of the build up of things. So just kind of keep in mind that even though men might not admit it, they like a lot of the same things that we like too. They like to be romanticized and be open and willing to check in with him. And even if you do have some hangups about some things, just be open and kind of figure out, set boundaries within that, but still be open to pleasing your husband, as much as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is communication, communication, and more communication because it just doesn't stop. In the bedroom, some people are talkers, some people are doers. Find out who your mate is in the bedroom, what personality they bring, and kind of go from there. I think it's important for you to understand your own body as a woman and encourage your mate. Go buy him a little pocket vagina so he can see what the things that he likes. That's a little, if your man is shy to it or whatever, like just try it on him. You use it on him. Like you can do things like that kind of open so that it's not so many times people have this shame because it can be a dark industry. Let's just not act like it doesn't have dark
Mhm.
spaces that sex go to, but in a marriage you are bringing all that light to your partner. It's a positive thing. It's a deposit that you're adding into. There's no shame. You can do anything you want to in the bedroom that you so choose, whether it's videos, whether it's sexy text message or sexting or, whatever the case. You can go there with your mate, but know how far to go with your mate at the same time. You want to make sure that if you are struggling in said areas in your sex life, go see a therapist or go to a sexologist. They aren't the same thing. So one specializes in, sex and marriage and all of those things, which I posted the link in to the sexologist Michelle. But there are others. Like, don't be shy. Don't let your marriage go to hell because the sex is not where it used to be. There is also a Netflix show, a documentary. I think is it Gwyneth Paltrow, Sex, Love, and Goop or something like that. And
Oh, yeah.
they follow these couples, and they're going through they're with sexologists and doing sex therapy or going to retreats, not just marriage retreats. They're sex retreats, so that you can truly connect with your. Be open, men too. Be open to exploring your mate. Have a night of exploration. Maybe sex ain't involved that night, but you're just exploring. Like, what do you like about this? Do you like that I rub it that way? Do you want to rub that way? Like, have a night where you're exploring each other's bodies so you know how each other's ticking in that space. Um, Make deposits that aren't sexual. Okay, whether if there's other love language or other love pieces in the mix, so make sure that you're toning to those because it can't be all just sex and then you need the dishes done. So like find out what those other things or other needs or other deposits that you can make within your relationship that will like continue on when you can't get to those spaces where medical or something like that happens. You just don't want to stop trying at the end of the day. Be open and be honest and have some humility in those spaces and know your limitations but never set a limit. Try to always keep it pushing, keep it moving. And so this has been wonderful. So I hope you take some of these tips. Genesis, we thank you for coming aboard and just
Mhm.
being on the panel with us today.
Yes, I enjoy myself over here today.
We got a little hot, got a little hot for a moment.
Right?
I was just making sure that I behaved and I didn't say anything so that the YouTube channel isn't flagged. Like, it's tough. It's
It
tough.
is tough. Oh,
Yes.
I
He
hope
said,
we,
my Lord.
I don't know how much stuff we said, but anyway, I hope that we like shared and, we just always want to, give our hearts on these shows because we really
Yeah.
want to help women feel empowered as wives, as business women. We wear all these hats and, we always got to make sure that we are like supporting each other. So Genesis, thank you for coming up.
Yes.
And we just
Absolutely.
Good conversation. You're so transparent about everything. We're
That's
here
all I know
for
how to
it.
be. That's all I know how to be.
yes, absolutely. And mother, thank you as well, because you're my girl and we talk
Right?
so much, okay?
You know.
I want to make sure that we are just in sync, okay? We're gonna keep having these discussions like this because we want to help empower wives and mothers and all of we're gonna talk about our real experiences on this platform and make sure that we're like educating as much. So we do welcome others to come up. So just know that it's like no men allowed at this point because we just want to keep this space sacred. So if you don't see men up here,
Right.
it's for a reason.
It's
Okay,
for a reason.
they can be in the comments, but they
Right.
ain't got to stay.
And they can address it
Okay?
at the barbershop on Fridays.
Yes,
And
they can
Saturdays.
go to
This
the
is for us.
barbershop.
Take that to the barbershop. This is for
Yeah.
us. Y'all want to know how we feel, and so we're gonna speak on it. We're gonna speak
Absolutely.
on it. Y'all want some real
He said
deal.
in the comments.
So we just want to thank you for winding down.
I found this on the web for the comment.
What did he say? What happened? Okay. Well, we just want to thank you guys for coming out, and I hope that you have a fabulous Valentine's Day. Don't let it just be Valentine's Day for you to show your significant other. Make every week feeling like
Right.
Valentine's because we busy. So at least
Y'all show up and show out on Valentine's Day though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Swing from that
So
fence.
you guys
Swing
take
from that
care,
fence.
and we thank you for joining. What would you say, Mother?
I was told going to swing from the ceiling fan on Valentine's Day. Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
try.
Show
Just
up
give it a
and
try.
show out. All right.